Hey, I hate
feminism.
Can I ignore him with you?
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah, screw him.
Ugh, I never realized ignoring him was an option.
Guys! Can anybody hear me? You guys! Token, I'm here! Hello! Can you feel me? Feel me, Clyde?
Well, how about an oldie but a goodie topic? Many of my new subscribers probably don't even remember the dark side of the quartering. Back when I used to partake more in the culture conversation, a lot of conversations around video games and feminism, and whether or not these two things are married at the hip and must be forever.
Why I f***ing hate video games, because this is what it does. It appeals to like the male fantasy.
Topics like that, they don't really interest me that much anymore, simply because, well, there's just more important things going on out there. But how about a good old laugh? How about an interesting hot take or two from the world of yesteryear? Why the hell are there so many regressive social justice warriors in the Magic community? I like to start all of my videos, when I can, with some good old statistics. Then we're going to have a reaction video. I haven't watched the video yet. It looks like it's legendary. It looks like it's legendary. Let's look at the interest, for example, in feminism through time. This is Google Trends. Essentially, this measures the overall interest in a topic. You can see the graph here. It shouldn't be viewed as a volume of searches, but in overall interest. That's how this works, okay? You have, topics like third wave feminism. What's the opposite of feminism? Common sense. But so when we look at this data, there's only two things that will bring the interest in feminism to its knees. One is Christmas. Shocking, right? And two is real stuff, real concerns. So we look at overall interest in the last year has peaked in April of 2019. And it's basically been falling out of interest. It had some brief spikes recently. But what do you think caused this gigantic drop in interest? Well, it's Christmas time, everybody. February 22nd through 28th, it was at an all-time low. God, I didn't even realize that when I first pulled up this is why I want to take my videos and I don't rehearse, because I, like you, like those little pleasant surprises. The only reason people stop talking about feminism is because they want a sweet Christmas present.
I fear no man, but that thing, it scares me.
I'm dying. Oh no, it got me. Then you see after Christmas, they get right back to work, pushing up here into a peak. They had reached a peak in March of this year, but real world issues happened and it completely cratered again. A second all-time low only to Christmas. Interesting why that is. Now, the people who love to push this, see, that's interestingly, this is a topic that I discussed this past weekend on a podcast. It's interesting that for the last 3 weeks, there's been a noticeable drop-off in diversity. Oh, everybody on the response team is old white guys. Or how come there aren't enough POCs in doctors, in photographs we see in the hospitals? Well, that's because it doesn't actually matter. Over the past couple of years, the United States, and really to the exact same extent, the Western civilization has been booming. Things have been generally the best they've ever been. They've been excellent, which has allowed people to work extra hard at finding things to be upset about. And now that real stuff happened, people don't care anymore. Well, I had Christmas. Christmas is apparently real stuff to the smooth-brained blue hairs out there. But there was this article, this was on March 19th. You see, they are now working to get it back up. See, there's a little peak this week. And I think I've identified the cause. 2 main articles and 1 video that is sure to be hilarious. Now, everything in going on around the world is a disaster for feminism. It affects men and women differently. Well, sure, of course, you could argue that. Enough already. When people try to be cheerful about social distancing and working from home, noting that William Shakespeare, Isaac Newton did some of their best work while England was ravaged by a plague, there is an obvious response. Neither of them had childcare responsibilities. Wait, I thought that was shared equally. What? For those with caring responsibilities, this type of thing is unlikely to give them time to write a book or develop a theory of optics. This type of situation magnifies all existing inequalities, even as politicians insist that this isn't a time to talk about anything other than the immediate situation. Well, that's most of us. You know, the graph itself proves that nobody cares about it right now.
Won't somebody please think of the
Feminism, because we've got real stuff to deal with. Working from home in a white-collar job is easier. Employees with salaries and benefits will be better protected. This is a class issue and one I would agree with. Self-isolation is less taxing in a spacious house than a cramped apartment. But one of the most striking effects of everything going on will send many couples back to the 1950s across the world. Women's independence will be the silent victim of everything.
I have it far worse.
Purely as a physical illness, it appears to affect women less severely. Well, yes, that is factually correct. Significantly less, by the way. But in the past few days, the conversation around it has broadened. We are not just living through everything going on, but an economic one. As much as normal life is suspended for 3 months or more, job losses are inevitable. And at the same time, school closures and household isolation are moving the work of caring for children from the paid economy, nurseries, schools, babysitters, to the unpaid one. Parents? The parents that chose to have them? Oh, the humanity! Now, this coming from a childless weirdo myself, although I do want children. I understand. Believe me, I do. Parents are definitely getting maxed out right now. And what stinks is whatever vacation they had that they're going to need after this, they've got to burn up to keep the bills paid right now, to keep checks coming in if they're able. This situation smashes up the bargain that so many dual earner couples have made in the developed world. We can both work because someone else is looking after our children. Instead, couples will have to decide which one of them takes the hit. That's actually not true. Most people don't get to choose. Right now, the government is telling us everyone has to go back and not work. They're not saying men only. They're not saying you can choose. They're just closing it down indiscriminately. Many stories of arrogance related to this. Among the most exacerbating is the West's failure to learn from history. Yes, I'm sure. According to British government's figures, 40% of employed women work part-time compared to only 13% of men. In relationships, women are more likely to be the lower earners. Oh, patriarchy. Meaning their jobs are considered a lower priority when disruptions come along. Again, that's not always true either. For example, my wife makes less money than me, but she's the one that carries insurance. So, in fact, her job is more important than mine if we're making choices. If we're making choices of who would have to take care of the kids, it would be me because we need to keep the insurance. But, you know, I'm just facts and logic. Despite the mass entry of women into the workforce during the 20th century, the phenomenon of the second shift still exists. Across the world, women, including those with jobs, do more housework and have less leisure time than their male partners. No science backs that up, of course. Yeah, so you can see where this is going. I'm not going to read this whole thing because it's drivel. But you can see Quillette, by the way, great website. It says, no, 2 days later, no, it is not a disaster for feminism. And you can see, I wasn't especially surprised to find an essay on The Atlantic calling it a disaster, but I'm disappointed. It seems that the author Helen Lewis undervalues women's work simply because it is unpaid labor. But to undervalue unpaid labor is to reaffirm the corporate idea of what constitutes valuable work. Denigration of home economics has always been a blind spot with feminism, which often champions traditionally male markers of professional and corporate success as success itself, rather than celebrating the uncorporatized nature of traditional female work. To repeat, I am not surprised this anti-female logic at this date, but I still find it disappointing. Of course, that is, the idea that women would choose to stay at home if they could. By the way, most that I've talked to would. My wife absolutely would. And she would happily be a stay-at-home mom, all right? I'm not going to be the one to tell her to not go to work, but there are obviously plenty of women that would rather be stay-at-home moms. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, this is something that feminists often ridicule and call it as a form of, subjugation or a form of lesser being.
Parent's occupation. Please note, homemaker is not allowed as it is not real work. That's why you don't get paid for it.
But to be totally honest with you, that's ridiculous. There are, of course, good reasons why feminists fought to emancipate women from the home. Economic independence transformed societies, economies, and the individual lives of many women, and allowed them to pursue intellectual, creative, professional fulfillment they had hitherto been denied. Hitherto? Jeez, good word. However, the kind of professional and capitalistic contemporary feminism seems to require the denigration of home economics and child rearing. This is both unnecessary and, in a time that we're living, particularly unhelpful and narrow-minded. And of course, the article here does a great job debunking all of that, and I would recommend reading it. It's on Quillette. But let's get to the fun. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of all of this, because I just can't wait. I saw a tweet from Miran Faruqi, Greens senator for NSW, feminist, engineer, and migrant. Any of that matter? Nope. So let's see this video. Now, it says, it is a gendered issue. Nurses, nurse aides, teachers, by the way, all these positions can be male or female, childcare, and early childhood educators, aged care workers, and cleaners are mostly women. Doesn't provide any data around that, but maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. It doesn't mean they all are. They are on the front line of this public issue and carry a disproportionate risk of being affected by it. You know what's interesting? It goes on to say, let's not forget that not all homes are safe places. Self-isolation at home will put many women and children at risk. Women's advocates and domestic experts have been warning us that these type of things will increase. Well, probably true. I'm terribly worried that these warnings have not been heeded by this government and has long resisted adequate funding for needed resources and these other folks. I really hate to bring facts into this because this is a purely ideological position, but it affects women more, huh? Interesting take. Oopsie doopsie poopsie. In fact, the people who end up in a critical state are 71% men.
Facts are meaningless. You can use facts to prove anything that's even remotely true.
Interesting. Now, the age is, on average, 62.6. And there's also other statistics underneath this, which generally disprove everything here. You can see 4.7% for men, 2.8% for female, and obviously men at 2.8% deletion rate versus 1.7%. So, oopsie doopsie poopsie. But let's take a look anyway.
Let us not forget that COVID-19 is a gendered crisis.
It already started, and it's hilarious. All right. Yes, it is gendered. Go on.
Nurses, nurse aides, teachers, child carers, and early childhood educators, aged care workers, and cleaners are mostly women.
Okay. And most of the people dying from it are men. What's your point?
They are on the front line of this public health crisis and carry a disproportionate risk of being exposed to the virus.
Wait a minute. Are you just reading your tweet? Why do you even have this video? Is this just literally your tweet? This is going to be disappointing.
Let's also not forget that not all homes are safe places. Quarantine or self-isolation at home.
Let's also forget that that goes both directions. All right? Men are absolutely on the receiving end of bad behavior in their homes all the time.
Will put women and children at risk. Women's advocates and domestic violence experts are warning us that domestic abuse increases during times of crisis.
Everybody knows that anyway.
And I'm terribly worried that these warnings have not been heeded by this government that has long resisted adequate funding for the needed resources and refuges.
Oh, that's it? Well, I guess hearing somebody say something really stupid is also really funny to me. Ridiculous. Get this person off my screen. Get out of here. Well, all I could say is, you know, you can always count on morons to never let a bad situation go unmilked for attention or clout.
All that for a drop of
Clout. And this is just another one going down the lines. Now, of course, we saw that, you know, during the relief conversation, some of this stuff snuck into the bill, but thankfully it was trimmed out to try to get something done. But hey, it's always funny to laugh at crazy people, and it's always good to have a laugh when times are stressful. I hope you're doing well out there. I've increased the output of videos covering not just video games, news, movies, entertainment stuff, but also this kind of stuff. So keep your suggestions coming in the comment section down below. And if you follow me on Twitter at The Quartering and give me suggestions every day there, I'm here to help you survive with some memes. And by the way, shout out to my editors. We're also here working extra hard for all of you. So thanks, buddies. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.